Boker Tov, everyone. So we're continuing with where we left off in yesterday's case, where we spoke about the concept of en mevatlin isur lechatchila, where Rabbi Shalom Asas addresses that if, let's say, some milk accidentally fell into a person's dafina or any other meat pot of soup, etc., so you need it to happen accidentally. You need 60 times against it to mevatel the taste that fell in of that milk, and therefore, if there's 60 times against it, it's mutar. And if there's not 60 times against it, you're not allowed to now add more water or add more meat so that it could get to 60 times. But if that pot is chicken soup, which chicken and milk is midirabanan, you are allowed to add more to it, even the chatchila. Meaning after that milk accidentally spilled in, you're now allowed to add in, if there's not 60 times against it, more to it. Now, let's talk about meat. Meaning, when it comes to basar off, as we mentioned, chicken is more, it's midirabanan, it's more lenient, but let's talk about a case of milk and meat, actual meat. So milk falls in, and now let's say it fell into a pot of 30 times the amount of milk. It's not kosher. We said it needs 60 times. Now, let's say someone else comes into the kitchen, doesn't know anything about the story. He says, that's so little meat, let's add meat. And he adds a whole bunch of meat into the pot, or a bunch of water to the pot. He didn't know that first milk fell into it. Now there's 60 times against it. The question is, when that milk went into that meat, and there was only, let's say, 30 times against it, and that made it asur, did that now turn the whole thing into isur, and now you'll need 60 times against that whole 30 or 31, let's call it? Or, no, now that I have 60 against the one that came in, that's already okay. So that's what's called nalacha, chaticha, naasit, nevela. The piece became nevela, became not kosher, meaning the entire piece became not kosher. Also in halacha, they use it as an abbreviation, which is called chanan, chaticha, naasit, nevela, which is that when that piece of milk comes into smaller than 60, it turns the entire thing into isur, into basar chalav. So that entire now 31, call it, you'll need 60 times against it to make it kosher. If it happened accidentally, that 60 times against it fell in. Like in our case, the guy just walked in, didn't know, and he put more water and more meat into it. It's unbelievable. So you need like tons, 6,000, whatever, right? Yeah. So 1,800 times the original one, right? So that's what's called chaticha, nasi nevela. The entire thing becomes not kosher. Now, when it comes to basar b'chalav, everybody agrees that that's the case. But there's another type of mixture that's asur, where let's say I have meat and I have non-kosher meat. So the mixture is non-kosher meat falls into kosher meat. But the first case we talked about is milk and meat. Milk and meat is more strict. Everyone agrees milk falls into meat. And like the case that we said, and now there's 31 in there, you'll need 60 times that. What if non-kosher meat falls into kosher meat? Now I have 30 times against it, not kosher still. Someone else walks in accidentally, or he knows what's going on, but he didn't realize milk fell in or a non-kosher piece fell in. He adds more meat to it. Say, hey, it's already not kosher, this thing. So now there's 60 against that non-kosher piece of meat. Do we say chaticha naasit nevela? Do we say chanan with non-kosher meat and kosher meat like we do by milk and meat? That's a machloket Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. The Shulchan Aruch rules lenient. It says, no, we don't say chanan when it comes to non-kosher meat and kosher meat, meaning if you have 60 times total against that little piece of meat, then you're kosher. But Ashkenazim rule stringent and say that if that non-kosher meat falls into your pot of 30, I have 31, that makes the whole thing not kosher, just like milk and meat, and I need 60 against that entire amount to make it kosher. Now, this again is agreed upon. This is a machloket Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. They both Sfaradim and Ashkenazim agree when it comes to milk and chicken that you're allowed to add. That's why I left it on the side, allowed to add. And everybody agrees as well. What about a case of dry items where it's not, because the whole thing here of the 60 is about taste. So if it's, let's say, dry let's say beef jerky that's really dried out. So there's no liquid over here. So a piece of non-kosher meat fell into 30 of the beef jerky pieces of kosher pieces. Now I can't discern which one's which. So and when it comes to dry, you still need 60, and chanan does not apply. So at all times you would need, if you have 60 against it, then it's going to be kosher. Okay, that's just a little bit of an insight. So, a rare type of case, but it's a very applicable in the halachot of basar v'chalav and taruvot. This concept of chanan is a very, very applicable case. So I was happy to introduce this to you. But again, it could be very, very practical as well. But in all cases, just to end off on a very practical note, is if anything happens, call your local rabbi. Milk fell in, how much, how what, better to not decide on your own and to speak to your local rabbi and get to a conclusion, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, that's that for today. We have a breakfast sponsored today by the Maman family, Leilu Nishmat, their dear father, who's Nachala, 1 year today. Unbelievable how time flies. Amram ben Eliyahu alav shalom. And then we're going to be heading to the cemetery here at Bathurst Lawn. If anyone could help for the minyan, that would be greatly appreciated. It's not far, right here, Bathurst Lawn. That would be greatly appreciated. Mincha tonight at 6 p.m. and Gemara Shiur tonight at 8:30. Starting the new parak, the last parak of Ketuvot. Everyone can join. It would be great, B'ezrat Hashem. Tana D'Eliyahu.